very proud to announce something new today. We are launching the industry's first D&I Best Practices guide. So the idea of this guide came from a meeting of the iMasons Women's Membership Resource Group back in Facebook in London in 2019. The idea was then picked up by the iMasons D&I Committee, which is co-chaired by Charisse and Hannah Ormondroyd, who set up a steering committee to project manage and deliver the guide. The committee identified people in our community with relevant experiences to share and appointed recognized D&I consultant Inga to conduct interviews and write this guide. This has been a major undertaking with professionals in our industry across 20 different companies sharing their experiences to produce the guide. I wish I had time to give a shout out to everyone now, but they're all called out in the actual document. But there are two people who have gone above and beyond in this long journey from London in 2019. First is Inga, the lead researcher and author, and second is Hannah Ormondroyd, who led the steering committee. Again, without Hannah's guidance and Inga's work, right, their professionalism and sheer determination, there's no way we would have gotten this guide out today. So I'm really proud of what we're putting in. I hope this guide will inspire you on your journey to realizing the benefits of a more diverse and inclusive workforce. So take a look on the website and download. So now I'd like to welcome our next panel, made up of leaders from our D&I committee, who have been responsible for the development and launch of this guide. Our moderator today is Heather Dooley. Heather is the Global Director of Business Operations, Learning and Tools at Google Data Centers, and she's also the chair of iMason Women's US chapter. She is passionately involved in developing opportunities for women in technology through volunteering, mentoring, and driving corporate diversity and inclusion initiatives. So Heather, take it away.
Thank you so much, Dean. First and foremost, I just want to thank Charisse and Marisol for sharing their personal journeys and a lot of education that I think we all can learn from when it comes to equity and equality. So thank you very much. That was very inspiring. Today, I am joined by three incredible advocates and thought leaders in the D&I practice. I am joined by Amber. She is the Chief Revenue Officer for Neutrality Data Centers. Amber's on the Advisory Council for Infrastructure Masons and is the Global Executive Sponsor for I Am Women. Amber also holds a Board of Directors position at Virtual Power Systems, and her goal is to promote diversity for women pursuing degrees and careers in technical infrastructure and data centers, to increase the visibility and awareness and advancement of women. Hannah is the head of people at CBRE's data centers and the co-chair of the iMasons D&I committee. As the global leader of people function for CBRE data centers, Hannah works as part of the DCS executive committee and is responsible for building and delivering programs and strategies to improve organizational and people capability, talent pipeline, and employee experience in the workplace. Hannah is passionate about making organizations a better place to work, particularly focused on achieving this through D&I culture and talent development. And we also have Inga with us today. Inga brings over 10 years of experience as a consultant, researcher, trainer, and gender diversity expert. With W2O, she helps organizations in tech and engineering create a gender balance, usually by reviewing work processes and/or culture. Inga is also the co-founder of the Big Fish D&I Academy. Training D&I leads and champions, she is the author of Be Gender Smart, the key to career success for women. Previously, Inga has worked for nearly 2 decades as a business consultant at Siemens and Shell, and as a tutor and researcher at Ashbridge Business School and Chatham House. Thank you so much for the panelists for joining in this discussion today. Really, the three of you have been at the cornerstone of creating the D&I practice guide. And as Dean mentioned, we are launching that today across the IM members group. And I've been a participant in it over the last few months, and I just have to say that this is a stellar piece of work. I encourage all of you to take the time and opportunity to learn from the D&I guide. And today we're going to talk a little bit more from our panelists about why this guide was needed. So Hannah and Amber, if I could ask you to start, tell me a little bit more about why the guide was needed and what were the goals that you created for the guide?
Thanks, Heather, and it's great to be here and actually finally be able to share the guide with everybody. So I'm very excited that people can now, use this. But I think, the business case for D&I is proven without a doubt. But the business case is particularly pertinent for our industry, given the pace of growth and the pace of change that we're all seeing. But D&I can really address some of those key issues that face us. So the talent shortage is one, but thinking creatively with having people from different perspectives to achieve that continuous improvement. But as Dean said, the initial idea came from an IM Women's meeting at Facebook in London, and we were discussing, how can we really supersize our efforts to capitalise on the advantages of D&I as an industry? How can we share best practice? How can we highlight the opportunities to address the challenges that organisations may face? And sort of where do we start, whether that's somebody that has no knowledge to someone that's really looking to progress where they are in their D&I journey. So it's not always easy to create change in this space, and there is a lot to learn. I think the guide gives an easy entry point for people, as well as sharing some more progressive ideas. I know, I've been working, as you said, in the people space for over 20 years, and I certainly learned a lot more in supporting to create this. But the aim was really to provide a toolkit to support companies or individuals who are keen to drive the D&I agenda in their organisation, but to really provide a tool that's very practical of how this can be established. So we really wanted to provide or to illustrate this through stories and real examples from people across our industry, and really be able to inspire people to show that it can be done. It was really key for this to feel like it was written for our industry as well, which I'm sure Inga will talk more about and make sure it really resonated for us. But it's definitely intended to be very easy to use, and you can sort of dip in and out of it when needed, regardless of the area. And also, I think one of the main aims is to really be able to use this regardless of where you are in your D&I journey.
Thank you. And Amber, would you like to add your experience in developing the guide and the goals?
Yeah, I would say in addition to what Hannah said, I think the guide was needed for a variety of different reasons. But primarily for me, it was to create awareness and education around diversity and inclusion. Our intention was to provide a toolkit or to guide organizations across the world who are wanting to promote a culture of inclusivity. There are many companies out there and individuals out there that want to make a difference, that they want to impact change. They just don't know where to start. And so this guide really was to share perspectives across many individuals and organizations that are now making an impact. And so what's good about it, as Hannah mentioned, is that it really has a broad perspective. And I believe it's going to be really valuable for you regardless of where you are within your D&I journey. I think the goal for us for the guide was really to have a platform that consolidated feedback from industry leaders around the world on how they are thinking about diversity and inclusion. We coupled that feedback with industry data to see how we can drive the core goals, which is promoting awareness around the need and benefits of D&I. And ultimately, our goals were to attract and hire and retain a diverse pool of candidates. And so as we thought about putting together the guide, having multiple perspectives across the industry, we thought would be most valuable. And I believe companies will be able to use this plan to incorporate into their D&I strategy.
Thank you, Amber. One of my favorite things about the guide is all the voices in the room. The heart of diversity is ensuring that we have diverse perspectives and experiences, and that we can share those in a safe place. And the guide really illustrates the power of bringing all of those perspectives together. Inga, if I could ask you, you really were at the heart of helping us create the process of developing the guide. Tell me a little bit more about that process.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me here. It's just been so exciting. We've been working on this for a year, and to just see it out there and for people to actually access it is great. And what we wanted, as Hannah said, is to make it user-friendly, practical, but it also had to be credible, right? It's not just anyone speaking. So we did that I can't write that on my own. I realized that instantly, right? So that's not just 10 years experience, that's really understanding the industry. So we thought of a process of doing interviews with people across the industry and making sure it was for everyone in the data infrastructure industry. So large and small companies who have usually quite different stories. So we have interviewees from both. We wanted to look at suppliers, providers, builders, and make sure we had all those perspectives geographically as well. So we wanted to have people from Asia, Europe, and United States. And I think we really try to cover all of that in the interviewees. So then we had to obviously find those interviewees and make sure we are hitting the right tone. And that's where we decided to set up a steering committee, which Amber was one of the prominent members of, which Hannah was chairing. And that steering committee, gave me a lot of input on where they wanted things to go. Like, for instance, I thought, everyone knows the benefits of diversity and inclusion. And it came really clearly back from, the steering committee. Actually, we want to have this much more specifically in there with words that the industry, speak to the industry.
Thank you, Inga. Hannah, this is an enormous project. And it was so well organized. Tell me a little bit more about how you got all of these stakeholders to collaborate.
Well, it was a big team effort, as I think you can probably hear from the others as well. But it would be remiss if I didn't do a bit of a shout out to say thank you to everybody that's been involved. I think Dean mentioned there are too many names to mention. But they are all in the guide. Everybody's been represented there, but a huge thank you for everyone to pull it together. But as Inga said, I worked closely with her and others, such as Amber and yourself, Heather, as part of the steering committee. We met regularly to track progress, but one of the really big tasks was gathering our interviewees. And that was really important because the stories and the experiences and the anecdotes, that's really what we wanted to use and the main thread really for the guide. So through the D&I committee, the SteerCo, the iMasons advisory board, and numerous others, we basically contacted our networks to explain what iMasons were creating and really requesting their involvement and expertise. And it was really great to see the positive response.
Yeah, it is amazing. And for those, who are just joining us or who haven't had a chance to download the guide, I know that Dean put it in the chat, and please do spend some time with it. It is an incredible illustration of cooperation across this industry. And I think that is one of the things that stands out to me, is that everyone is participating in helping us support a better, diverse and inclusive environment. Each panelist, if you don't mind, I'd like to hear, one thing that might have surprised you in going through this process.
I mean, it was a good surprise, but the surprise was really to see the response for the project and how many people wanted to support and provide their input, provide their interviews, and really showcase. Actually, there's a lot of good work that's happening. There's a lot of great initiatives that are taking place, but that involvement really continued throughout the whole process. So as Inga said, it was a long process. It's taken us about a year from the concept to get here, and we had great input. But really also paying attention to the details. So, really checking that the guide, as we said, would resonate, but really resonate regardless of what country you're based in, regardless of the reader's experience in D&I, but also to make sure that we used inclusive language.
Excellent. Amber, one thing that might have surprised you through the process?
It was interesting as we were going through the process. I think that there were many revelations that I personally had. Although I've been passionate in driving diversity and inclusion for over 20 years, I'm still learning. And when you think about D&I and what strategies you can implement within your organization, to drive the outcomes you desire, there needs to be an intentional process in place. Sometimes you need to question yourself and if your process is producing the results you want. And if not, you need to refine that process. So as I was thinking about attracting and retaining a diverse pool of candidates and ensuring my hiring practices, support that initiative, everything from job descriptions to mentorship programs to ensuring you have a diverse pool of candidates. One of the areas of improvement I learned was that you not only have to have a diverse pool of candidates, you really need to have a diverse pool of recruiters and train those recruiters to make conscious efforts with their recruiting efforts and that align with your plan and strategy. It seems super simple, but if you build an entire D&I strategy and don't enforce it to your hiring managers or recruiters that are working on your behalf, you won't get the optimal results. So that was a learning I took from this that I appreciate and have already implemented.
So it's an evaluation of all steps in the process. That's fantastic. Inga, would you share quickly one of the things that you might have learned through this process?
I did all these interviews, and my biggest surprise was that there were still really new things going on in the sector, which was really exciting. And one of the things I learned was how to do advanced searches in databases on particular categories. So when you're recruiting, so that's a very specific thing, but you can actually recruit very deliberately from particular categories. And also, for instance, when you're searching on LinkedIn, one of the search terms can be certain fraternities that or sororities that particular groups of people are members of, which I thought was really clever.
One of the things I'd just like to also prompt us to think about is gender diversity and having a little bit more of a call to action around it. As many of the members have seen, we on the I Am Women board are launching a gender parity challenge. And what is, I think, unique about this particular challenge is that there's two things. One is we think that all of you have an opportunity to participate at the rate and in a way that is meaningful for you. So although we would love to see gender parity in the industry by 2025, we ask you to take up the challenge and determine how you want to apply the opportunities to increase gender in our industry. The second thing about the challenge, which I'm super excited about, is that along with it comes an educational and awareness path. And so we in the iMasons I Am Women board will be supplying you with additional information on how you can support diversity and gender parity within the industry. So more to come. Every month we'll be launching new topics and new awareness and new education campaigns to help you along your parity challenge. So thank you so much to the panelists. It's been a real pleasure to have a chance to work with all of you. The guide is amazing, and I'm really, really proud of the work that you've all done. Thank you.